Hi, welcome back to my attempted coverage of the gigantic internet iceberg. Last episode we began the first tier of this iceberg and we managed to cover around 30 different topics. Today we're probably going to do a similar amount of entries, though today I do promise that we're going to be talking about a lot more of a wider variety in terms of our topics, rather than mostly just social media platforms like last time. Without wasting more time, I think it's time to jump right back into our exploration of the gigantic internet iceberg. Adobe is a massive computer editing software company that is best known for their Adobe Creative Cloud. The Adobe Creative Cloud is more or less just like a gigantic suite of software that can be used for creating and editing pretty much any sort of digital media possible. For instance, some of their software includes stuff such as Photoshop and Illustrator and then Lightroom. These bits of software are good for stuff like graphic design. Premiere and After Effects are good for stuff like video editing. Then there's Flash and Dreamweaver, which are good for various bits of web design. And then finally there's Acrobat, which is great for viewing and editing PDF documents. Adobe, for the most part, plays a large part in providing all sorts of the various bits of software that is used throughout the internet for stuff such as content creation. I myself have actually learned a good chunk of their various different products throughout the years with various different classes I have taken in school. And for the most part, Adobe software is quite easy to learn the basics of, while still offering a lot of depth for those that are really looking to push them to their said limits. That said, Adobe software is quite expensive to use, thanks in part to its monthly costs. From what I'm seeing right now, it's like $70 a month to access the entire Creative Cloud. I myself don't use any of Adobe's software due to this, especially considering the fact that I don't have access to their free programs that they used to provide to students anymore. Nowadays, for stuff like video editing, I use stuff such as DaVinci Resolve, which is a free software. It's actually pretty cool. With that, besides their incredibly high prices, Adobe is also somewhat well known for having a lot of security vulnerabilities that have been exploited quite a bit throughout the years. Along with that, in recent memory, Adobe has made some changes to their terms of service within the last year, where more or less any sort of piece of media that is input or made with their software can now more or less be used to train AI, which is something that a lot of people aren't happy with. Though Adobe does suffer from a lot of these issues, their core software is still some of the absolute best in terms of content creation out on the market. Despacito is a song that released back in 2017 by the artist Luis Fonsi. Ever since its release, it's gone on to become one of the longest reigning number ones on the Billboard Top 100, and it's become the best-selling Latin single in US history. It's even managed to land itself an English remix by Justin Bieber of all people. Despacito as a song has had a massive effect on helping spread music from Latin America all across the globe. Despacito also played a bit of a role in terms of meme culture back in 2017, with various different memes that have popped up since then. For instance, there was this one meme trend I did see where it'd be like a clip of some random TV show or say something, and then they'll just like clip over to a character saying Despacito. Another big meme that came out of Despacito was just this image of a Roblox spider that's saying Despacito that popped up and has been quite popular throughout the years. With that though, the music video for Despacito has gone on to become the most viewed video on all of YouTube, and it did this back in 2017. Though, looking back now, it is not the most viewed video on YouTube at the moment, with it being taken by our next spot on this iceberg. As of right now, though, it sits at 9 billion views, and it has over 56 million likes. Despacito's viral popularity on both the internet and radio, and its just overall cultural relevance across the world has really helped cement this song in internet history, and at the top of this iceberg chart. The Baby Shark dance, or Baby Shark, is a children's song that has been immensely popular all across the internet for quite some time now. The Baby Shark song is just one of those songs that have kind of popped up into existence as just some sort of fun nursery rhyme or campfire song that has spread quite a bit over the years with no real person to contribute its original existence to. With its catchy lyrics and easy-to-learn nature, it definitely makes sense as to why it spread around so much, and then why it eventually did go viral. The first real instance of the song appearing in video format on the internet is with a video that is known as Kleiner Hai by the YouTube channel Myuu. Let me show you a little clip of that just to kind of introduce you to it.
Baby Hai, dum dum, dum dum, Kleiner Hai, dum dum, dum dum.
Kleiner Hai is Baby Shark in German, and this is the first ever appearance of the song on the internet. This original appearance sounds a lot more Jaws-like in nature, whereas with the modern rendition that you've probably heard just a million times up to now, it has a lot of these Jaws-like elements just kind of sanded away from it. Though the quality of this video and the audio isn't particularly good, I do low-key kind of like this rendition a bit more. Though that said though, this entry on the iceberg isn't about Kleiner Hai, it is about the Baby Shark dance, so let's begin talking about that one. The most popular version of this song was posted in 2016 with a video that is known as the Baby Shark Dance that was posted by the Pinkfong Company. This video blew up quite a bit in terms of its popularity, but I'd say it gained a lot of its internet cultural relevancy around 2019. Around this period of time, a lot of people were posting various different dance videos on TikTok, and a lot of people have kind of come to know the song because of that. With it gaining all of this attention online, it was really impossible to avoid hearing this song really anywhere you went. With that though, the virality of this song, whether it be from TikTok or just toddlers listening to it in public, the Baby Shark Dance has gone on to be recognized all throughout various different pieces of media, such as TV and movies. And it even got its own Nickelodeon TV show back in 2020. The Baby Shark Dance video managed to take the record for the most viewed YouTube video back in November of 2020 from Despacito, and it has kept that spot even to this date. As of right now, the video is currently sitting at over 16.5 billion views, with it most likely reaching 17 billion views in the very near future. To just kind of wrap this section up, I would like to give my condolences to any of the parents out there whose kid might have stumbled across this song online, as having to listen to the song on repeat. It's got to be like some sort of form of torture. Netflix is a video subscription company that is best known for nowadays, at least for their online streaming services. Before they were known for their online streaming services, Netflix was quite well known for their online video rental services that may or may not have played a part in the decline and then eventual collapse of Blockbuster. But back in the day, you could browse their website for really any sort of video that you might want that might be on a disc, in which you could then request those for rental. Netflix would then send you those discs through the mail, or you could then just kind of pop in the movie, watch it. And then once you were done with that, you would send them back to Netflix. And then you could repeat this process as much as you wanted, as long as you had a proper subscription with them. I remember my family doing this quite a bit back in the day, and it was honestly really cool. I know, this sounds like some real oldie unk stuff, DVD players, ooh. This feature was sadly discontinued back in 2023. In 2007, Netflix launched their very first effort at a streaming service, which overall is a lot more primitive compared to what we have today. But since then, the rest has really been history, as Netflix has gone on to improve their streaming platform quite a bit, and they still, even to this day, remain one of the largest streaming platforms on the internet. Ever since then, Netflix has gone on to have all sorts of various bits of media that were licensed out by studios to have on Netflix's platform, which gained Netflix a lot of popularity. Though in recent years, a lot of studios have gone on to pull back in terms of giving a lot of their licenses out to Netflix, and have gone on to create their own streaming services. Ultimately, this was a massive problem for Netflix. To kind of combat this, though, Netflix has gone on to create Netflix Originals, which are more or less pieces of media that were either created directly by Netflix or had their rights purchased prior to a full-scale release by Netflix. Netflix Originals have been quite popular throughout the years, and they have really helped keep Netflix in the streaming game despite being at an overall disadvantage. A lot of Netflix originals are known for either being pretty decent in terms of their quality or just overall being kind of trash that was most likely not picked up for a full release by a lot of other studios for a good reason. But some real notable originals throughout the years have been stuff like Stranger Things, Love, Death and Robots, Mindhunter, and our next entry on this Iceberg. Squid Game is a South Korean television series that was written and directed by Hwang Dong-hyuk that was first aired on Netflix in 2021. The show follows a man named Ji-hoon, who is just overall a crappy father and a gambling addict, who is then offered the opportunity to participate in a set of playground games in a very secluded location for 45.6 billion won against 456 other contestants. The main catch to all this, though, is that if you lose any of these games, you will end up dying. From there, Ji-hoon and a large chunk of other contestants then compete to the death in what is just like a massive bloodbath for that 45.6 billion won. I think what really made this TV series shine above most of the others on the internet at the time was its just overall incredibly well executed social commentary on the exploitation of the poor by the rich, along with its great and overall memorable camera work and visuals that have made the show stand out from a lot of others at the time. Along with that, there was a lot of really good character writing that did a really good job at getting people invested in a large majority of the characters' plights throughout the season. At least in my own opinion, I did really enjoy the first season of Squid Game, outside of some of the weird decisions they did make near the finale. If you know, you know, but I won't spoil it here, as I do recommend checking the show out, as the first season was really good. Since Season 1's release, Squid Game has gone on to become the most watched TV show on Netflix at its launch back in 2021, where it very much still holds that title today. Across the internet, after the first season released, people began to make all sorts of content that was related to the show. whether it be something simple like, I don't know, sharing clips to one another, or posting different memes that people might have found for the show, or even like with like larger projects such as like various different like fan games or Roblox games that were made around the show's premise, where you can just kind of like play the whole Squid Game experience with friends. Stuff like this has just been huge on the internet ever since the show first released. The show was a massive hit, and it was honestly impossible at the time to avoid any of its popularity or various different bits of imagery all across the internet, with stuff such as the masked guards or the jump rope girl that would just like cover every square inch of the internet and every single social media platform you would visit at the time. It very quickly began to infect stuff such as content that was made for younger audiences, which is something that really shouldn't have happened considering the fact that the show was R-rated, but it very much ended up doing that. But honestly, any sort of content on the internet that looks like vaguely something that kids might like, it's going to always gather a younger audience. It's impossible to prevent it at this point. With the show's popularity, Netflix quickly swooped in to greenlight 2 more seasons of the show, which I personally still have to sit down and watch. Though from what I've heard, it didn't end up reaching the heights of the first season for a lot of people, but it was still overall a enjoyable conclusion to the main story. At least I'm just going off of what I've heard. All I've seen for it is like the first episode of season 2, which I actually really liked, but I don't know why I never really sat down to finish it. I need to do that one of these days. Netflix since then has gone on to host their own actual like Squid Game reality TV show that has been a bit controversial for some people, as it kind of does miss the point of the main TV show, but it's also been quite popular as well. There was also like Mr. Beast hosted his own like rip-off version of the show called Beast Games that I tried watching like a tiny bit of, and I thought it was kind of crap, but some people really like it, I guess. Though the main series for the show is over, it looks like there's actually a spin-off in production called Squid Game America, with David Fincher actually in charge of directing it. Personally, I don't love the idea of another spin-off being made for Squid Games. It sounds very unnecessary, but with David Fincher in charge of directing it, it could actually end up being good, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Siri is a virtual assistant that was first released on Apple products in 2011, and it has been integrated with Apple products ever since then. Siri can be easily opened up with, say, a simple button press or by simply saying, "Hey Siri" towards your Apple device. From here you can then ask Siri just about anything, in which Siri usually will be able to respond and sometimes even act on that.
Hey Siri, show me a picture of tortellini. Oh, that's nice. Hey Siri, what's going on in North Korea today?
Sorry, I can't search the web on Apple Watch.
Oh, you lying bitch! You're telling me you come preloaded with tortellini? You can't tell me about North...
In some cases, since Siri is built into Apple devices, you can then have Siri go and do various different tasks on your phone with programs that were already pre-built into your Apple phone. For instance, if I could ask Siri right now with my iPhone to mark my calendar on August 15th as, say, I might have an appointment with my dentist that I might need help with remembering, Siri can easily go do that. Before wrapping this section up, I think it's good to note some of the content that has popped up all over the internet over the years with Siri involved. Whether it be stuff such as tech reviews, skit videos, or 3am slop content, Siri has been featured quite prevalently throughout the years. Most notably for me, I think when it comes to Siri content, the channel Elisocray comes to mind, thanks to some of his just absolutely deranged 3am content farm slop that he has produced over the years. Most notably was his Sex with Blank series of videos that don't seem to exist on YouTube anymore for a very good reason. The Siri videos do come to mind to me first when it comes to these ones, as they used to pop up on YouTube a lot. Which is very much why I'm bringing it up right now. Elisocray isn't on this Iceberg, and I just thought it'd be kind of funny to bring it up, but otherwise I'm moving on.
Hello? Is this Among Us? Imposter? Is this the imposter from Among Us?
Among Us is an online multiplayer game that was first released in 2018, but it really blew up in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. The game was heavily inspired by films such as John Carpenter's The Thing and various party games like Mafia, Werewolves, or Town of Salem. The game has you and a group of people play as a colorful crew of spacemen aboard a spaceship where you have to complete various different tasks until you manage to complete them all and you essentially win the match. While this sounds very easy on its own, there is also 2 other imposters aboard the spaceship whose task is to slowly kill off all of the other players before they can complete their tasks. When crewmates are killed, their body is left, which can then be reported by other players, which then can lead towards a vote where people can vote off who they perceive the imposters to be. One of the things that makes this game's whole investigative aspect is so much fun is the voice chat, which can prompt all sorts of reactions from players such as pleas for trust or just sus shenanigans. The simple gameplay loop that anyone can really easily pick up, along with the fun communicative aspects, really caught on in 2020 and was a great source of entertainment for everyone quarantined in their homes. Streamers also played a massive part in helping spread this game's popularity initially, with people such as XQC and SodaPoppin being the first that I really saw who helped popularize this game. The game blew up enough as to where we even got streams of prominent political figures like AOC or Ilhan Omar, who played the game to help promote the 2020 elections. With the increasing popularity of Among Us, there came an endless onslaught of memes and internet trends all around every single corner of the internet. For instance, there is the internet slang word known as sus that popped up, which is short for suspect or suspicious. The word sus is probably the most well-known reference of all, and it has slowly wormed its way into a lot of people's internet vocabulary. For instance, around the time when Among Us was at its peak, there was this quite infamous cameo clip that somebody paid for, where they had the actor who played Hank from Breaking Bad say it.
Walt, I don't know, man. You've been seeming sus lately. It's almost like we have an imposter among us. I saw that you wanted... Don't lie to me, Walt! You sussy Baka.
Around the same period of time, there was the whole when the imposter is sus caption meme that popped up, and it is heavily associated with this evil, potentially edited photo of Jerma985's face. The whole when the imposter is sus meme sparked this amazing internet trend of just overall internet psychosis where people would see Among Us in just about every single thing in everyday life. And honestly, this meme trend is most likely one of the main sources for a lot of the various different bits of internet brain rot that we see today. One of my favorites from this time period was the whole
Stop posting about Among Us!
video trend, thanks to the one viral video of a guy slowly losing his sanity to the constant barrage of Among Us references that he's seeing in real life and Discord. This has eventually gone on to spark various different edits to this video with various different properties.
Stop posting about
Killer 7.
I'm tired of seeing it! My friends on TikTok, I showed my champion underwear to my girlfriend, and the logo, I flipped it, and I said, hey, babe!
The name's Andre Almeida.
Ding, ding! Ding, ding! Ding, ding, ding! Ding, ding, ding! I fucking looked at it. I said, kill that! Give me old Equista! I looked at my penis, I think...
Look, I'm a queen.
And I go,
Garcian.
more like...
And near Park Kreiner.
Ever since 2020, Among Us has had its own large player base thanks to a large variety of updates and side projects that have been created since then. Some of the updates to the game have included entirely new maps like a brand new airship map, or various new game modes like hide and seek, or even new classes added to the game like shapeshifter, engineer, or scientist. One of the more notable things that was created Among Us-wise recently was Among Us VR, where you can essentially play the game in a fully realized 3D map with others using a VR headset. Among Us over the years has had all sorts of different crossovers as well with various different franchises, whether it be something simple like special skins added to Among Us from popular video games like Destiny, or even full-on video game cameos or additional content added to different game series like Vampire Survivors or Super Monkey Ball or even Fortnite. Pretty recently actually, an animated series for the game was released on Amazon Prime, and a brand new story detective game was announced at Summer Games Fest as well. Among Us isn't as popular today, but it still receives updates from time to time while still having its own pretty dedicated user base. Among Us's impact on the internet in the 2020s is massive, and it's definitely been one of the most impactful video games in recent memory. Internet Explorer is probably the most well-known out of all the different web browsers out there that is used to traverse the internet. It was first released to the public free of charge as part of Windows 95 by Microsoft as a way to help sell people on their products, as most computers prior to this point didn't come with a web browser. You would actually have to go out and then buy and then install them separately, which was a bit of a hassle compared to nowadays where you can just easily Google a browser and download it off the internet. This strategy proved to work fantastically, and it boosted this web browser's popularity greatly in the early years of the internet. It is most likely the first web browser that both you and I have used to access the internet over time, thanks to it being pre-installed and just being overall quite easy to navigate. Though, as time progressed, Internet Explorer soon began to lose its place in terms of being the most popular web browser on the internet, as browsers like Google Chrome and Firefox began to pop up and offer quicker and safer internet browsing experiences, which began to draw people away from Internet Explorer. In 2015, Microsoft Edge was revealed as a brand new default browser of Windows 10, where Internet Explorer would then soon cease development very soon afterwards. Internet Explorer is still accessible on Windows 10 and lower products, but it is well known nowadays for just being overall slow and just a worse option for browsing the internet. The slow speed of Internet Explorer is quite well known nowadays thanks to a lot of the various different memes that have come up over the years that involve Internet Explorer being a bit late to the party when it comes to reporting on different internet events. Internet Explorer is also somewhat well known for having poor overall security, which has led to the easy spread of a lot of different viruses over the years that most other web browsers would be able to identify and prevent quite easily from causing harm by just you accidentally clicking on a link that's suspicious. Though Internet Explorer is kind of a crummy internet browser, especially near its final years, it was an incredibly important piece of internet history thanks to it essentially being an easy gateway for many people in the early days of the internet to explore the vast open oceans of the web. Mozilla Firefox is another quite popular web browser that can be very easily downloaded and used to traverse the internet. It was a spiritual successor to NetEase Navigator, and it was first released in 2004. When it was first released, Firefox became quite popular thanks to its fast speed, add-on capacity, and fantastic security for browsing the internet. Its heavy focus on security is what Firefox is best known for, as when it was first released, Internet Explorer at the time was well known for having a large chunk of security issues thanks to a lot of different viruses that would exploit vulnerabilities, as most PCs at the time were Microsoft ones, and Internet Explorer was already integrated into PCs at the time so heavily, thanks to the fact that they're Microsoft PCs. Luckily, Firefox didn't suffer from these issues, as it's something that you download separately on the internet, and it's not directly tied to a lot of PC resources that Internet Explorer was directly tied to. With that, Firefox is also quite well known for providing pretty good overall user privacy, as it keeps things mostly minimal when it comes to collecting user data. That said, though, Firefox isn't perfect, as there have been some issues pertaining to relatively higher resource usage on PC compared to some of the other browsers out there, but otherwise, Firefox is still one of the most popular and best internet browsers on the market today. Finally, for our last web browser-based entry today, we have Safari, which is a web browser developed by Apple, primarily for Apple devices. Safari is currently the second most used browser on the internet, just behind Google Chrome. Safari was first released in 2003 for Mac OS X as the fastest browser for Mac devices. Ever since then, it's been the default web browsing software for all Apple products such as Macs, iPhones, and iPads. Safari on Apple devices is actually quite good, and it is what I've always used when it's come to Apple devices that I've owned, thanks primarily to how well it's integrated with your Apple device, along with its fantastic speed, performance, and security and privacy protection. Say what you want about Apple and their products, but the way that they have integrated all of their main applications and services together is easily the best handled, in my own opinion, out of any other brand on the market. Safari is overall a pretty good internet browser, and it's an important part of how most Apple users traverse the internet. Let's Plays are a category of video that you can find on video platforms like YouTube, where a creator films themselves playing a video game and includes commentary of their reaction to the video game that they're playing.
3. 2. 1.
Commentary for these types of videos can range quite a bit, with some people opting to go for a more honest, realistic reaction when playing a game, whereas where others might go for a more played-up personality with lots of screaming and joking around. The latter definitely is the more popular type of Let's Play video, as, let's be honest here, watching someone scream their head off while playing some trashy indie horror game like FNAF is infinitely more entertaining than someone just kind of casually playing a game. To be fair though, some people do prefer the latter, and that's all good. While mentioning Let's Plays, video game walkthroughs somewhat also get pushed under this bubble as well, but they are very much quite different. Video game walkthroughs are guides that show how to progress or achieve a very specific result with a video game that is often presented in a more informal manner, which is for the most part different than a Let's Play video. Let's Play video content creators' careers tend to live or die with how entertaining their creator is, with it being a very oversaturated niche online that is almost impossible to break through into nowadays. In some senses, I guess you could say streaming yourself playing a video game and then reacting to it, I guess you could also call that a Let's Play as well. The origin point for Let's Plays is definitely a bit rocky. As much as somebody like, say, Darkside Phil will claim that they first coined the term and genre, he wasn't, by the way, there have actually been plenty of other people who have gone on to create Let's Plays far before him. The most common Let's Play format that most people are actually knowledgeable about today was first spread about on the Somewhat Awful forum, with Slow Beef being credited as the user who first formatted the medium. This first ever video game playthrough was done with the video game that is known as The Immortal back in 2007. Though Slow Beef is credited as the first, there have been Let's Plays that have technically come before him. Funny enough, the infamous internet locale Chris Chan might technically be the first ever to actually release a Let's Play adjacent video, but all the way back in 2003, with a video of him showing off his Animal Crossing island for a Nintendo Power Contest. It's also where the infamous first ever recording of Christian and the Hedgehog Boys has appeared, As in the video, Chris sings a remix of a Backstreet Boys song called I Want It That Way, in which he's called it Virgin with Rage.
Go ahead. Alright. Tell me why I'm stuck as a virgin with rage. Tell me why I still need a cute girl my age. Tell me why.
Let's be honest, I never cried to music.
Hear you say,
I would never cry to a song. Let's be honest. I am a man.
Tell me why I'm stuck as a virgin with rage. Tell me why I still need a cute girl my age.
I'll be talking more about Chris Chan later down on the Iceberg, as his/her story is its own can of worms. With that, I think I might have also found what might technically be the first ever Let's Play of something, with a video of the first ever recorded footage of somebody playing Pong back in 1969. To wrap this up, I just kind of wanted to briefly mention some of the more popular content creators and games of this genre video. Some of the largest content creators throughout the years have been PewDiePie, Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, Game Grumps, Oni Plays, Cory X Kenshin, DanTDM, Stampy Longhead, etc. There are so many popular Let's Play content creators, so please don't tear me to shreds if your favorite wasn't just listed. Some games that have been incredibly popular with Let's Players include stuff such as Minecraft, FNAF, Fortnite, COD, PUBG, Goat Simulator, Poppy's Playtime, or any sort of mascot horror game. Let's Plays, for the most part, have always been an incredibly popular genre of videos on platforms such as YouTube, and even to this day, they will remain to be one of the most popular forms of entertainment on the internet. Roleplaying can be referring to all sorts of things, both in real life and online. Roleplaying as a whole, it just refers to either somebody creating, say, their own character, or taking up the role of an already pre-existing character, where with the participation of others, you can then enact a fictional story or scenario. You've probably roleplayed at some point in your life, whether it be through something simple like a team-building exercise of work where you enact the correct procedure to do something, or maybe through playing an RPG game like Final Fantasy, Skyrim, or Elden Ring, or maybe even with participating in the role of, say, a play or a video series online. Roleplaying tends to be associated heavily with dressing as characters and then participating in something like Dungeons & Dragons, or then maybe LARPing at, say, a Renaissance fair.
I knew it! You guys are LARPing, aren't you?
Excuse me?
You're fans.
Fans of what? What is LARPing?
Like you don't know.
On the internet, roleplaying is quite popular on all sorts of fronts. For instance, some people like to roleplay as real-life people in real-life positions, like as a police officer in games like GTA 5, or with people participating and playing as various different IP-based characters in Gary's Mod with various different RP servers there that range from all sorts of stuff like franchises like FNAF to stuff like the bad guys from World War II if you're a complete loser. Role-playing servers in these types of games tend to get a pretty big bad rap, at least from what I have seen, thanks to a lot of the power-hungry mods that are willing to ban over RDMs or fail RP. Role-playing online tends to just get a bad rap in general, thanks in part to a lot of the people who do it, and just some of the really weird stuff in general that people do, that's usually in public.
You know what? However, we're done.
We're not done! Daddy isn't done speaking! You will come back here!
As long as there's nothing criminal happening, I'm all good with its existence, as some of the clips I have seen spread online have been incredibly entertaining for both good and bad reasons. Some other good examples of role-playing online come with things like specialized accounts on platforms such as X that pretend to be all sorts of stuff like brands and characters, or say with maybe roleplay groups where people pretend to be all sorts of different characters with their own made-up relationships online. Or in probably the worst case scenario, at least in my opinion, there is ERP, which just stands for erotic role-playing, which is its own type of hell that I kind of don't want to discuss further right now. More or less, role-playing is something that's quite popular online, and it's a fun outlet for people pretending to be all sorts of stuff across the web, with its own ups and downs. This entry should probably be a tier lower, at least in my own opinion, but let's just kind of get onto it. Friday Night Funkin' is a rhythm game that took a chunk of the internet by storm in 2020 with its demo. In it, you play as someone referred to as the boyfriend, who has to face off against a lot of people in a rap contest to continue his relationship with his girlfriend. The gameplay is similar in a sense to that of Dance Dance Revolution, where you need to tap the arrow keys on your keyboard and sync with the music's rhythm and notes that are currently on screen. Its simple and quite fun gameplay loop really did a great job at allowing it to spread all across the internet, and it's managed to build up a pretty sizable fan base, which is still very active today thanks to the creation of mod support that still has a lot of really cool stuff being produced. The game as of right now is still currently in active development, and the full release of the game should hopefully be happening pretty soon. That said, this game has had its own set of controversies over the last couple of years due to stuff such as the game's subject matter, the developers, and then the fan base. Enough so that there is an entirely separate entry on this iceberg pertaining to all of it on Layer 2. To briefly sum this up for now, the community is usually the focal point for a lot of these controversies, with multiple prominent members being ousted as groomers. Along with that, there have been issues pertaining to some of the content created in the community mods, that have included stuff such as recreated gore content and actual CSAM material included in the source files for at least one mod. The community is also well known for bullying other members into quitting over some of the content that might not meet the same standard that they expect from everyone. Overall, I think this is horrible, especially considering the fact that a lot of this content that's probably not the best is created by really young users who are just learning how to make content for a game like this in general. There have also been some controversies pertaining to the content in the actual game itself, as there is some suggestive content that is there that's clearly meant for a more mature audience.
These nuts!
Whereas the cartoony art style has ended up building up an audience of players that are probably too young for this game. This really isn't the game's fault, as the game is not marketed as one for kids, but this has just been an issue regardless over the years. Just kind of take everything I've said about this game with a grain of salt, at least for this entry, because I've never played Friday Night Funkin', but besides all that, I don't really have much else to say about this game, so let's move on to our next entry. Critical, or also well known as Penguin Zero, Moist Critical, or Charlie, is an online content creator who's best known for streaming video games or posting commentary videos with his monotone voice and his vast white t-shirt wardrobe. Moist Critical first began content creation in 2006 of some pretty basic gameplay and commentary videos that are sadly now lost to time as he has gone back and deleted them. I think it was around 2018 when Moist Critical first really began to gain traction online with his career thanks to a lot of his commentary videos and video game streaming on Twitch. Moist Critical's commentary videos I think are what he's probably best known for, where he ultimately goes around and uploads multiple videos per day where he discusses various different topics that are both popular right now on the internet, or maybe they're just things that he just kind of wants to discuss in general. His deadpan delivery with his humor and voice really make these videos stand out amongst a lot of others on the internet.
Good lord, this game is just absolute. Of every horror game I have ever played, none of them have genuinely startled me until now.
I've always found a lot of his content to just be pretty good background noise while I work on other stuff, and his opinion and perspective on a lot of topics. It's this really good middle ground that I've always quite enjoyed. Moist Critical has always been known as a bit of a fence-sitter with a lot of topics, which has drawn up some controversy from a lot of the more fringe content creators out there, but I've always really liked this aspect of Moist Critical and his content. To me, it feels like a good somewhat compass on what the general internet consensus is for a lot of various things on the web. Besides his commentary videos, Moist Critical is also quite popular with his streams as well, where he would go on to play all sorts of video games and talk about all sorts of stuff on the internet that does sometimes get repurposed into his YouTube videos. He also used to run a series of videos called the Moist Meter, in which he would review various pieces of media like video games and film, but this was ultimately retired a few years back. Moist Critical has also gone on to found an esports team called Moist Esports that has gone on to compete in all sorts of different esports competitions throughout the years. He also used to be a part of the official podcast, to which he stepped away from it in 2024. Controversies-wise, the only real notable one that I can think of was his back and forth with the internet content creator Sneeko, who ended up going on to stream to threaten Moist Critical's life with a handgun.
You wanna watch my clips? Watch my clips! Watch my clip!
But Charlie ended up firing back by correcting him on his gun terminology while showing off his own firearms.
Now the reason he keeps saying watch my clips while threatening me here is because during the stream I couldn't watch him live because he just kept shouting slurs. So I said watch my clips to see what I was saying about you. I had to communicate via Twitch clips. And I'm sorry to be that guy, this is like the grammar police of guns, but he's a fucking imbecile, you absolute buffoon. What you have there is not clips. These are mags. They're mags, not clips, you absolute fucking dummy. The same way that this is also a mag. They're all mags. Stop saying clips, you look fucking stupid here.
This ultimately made the hotel chair connoisseur Sneeko look like even more of an idiot. Around the same period of time, he had a debate against Sneeko, which was overall not the greatest, as both sides ended up walking away with their own set of controversies that I don't really feel like discussing for time's sake. After this controversy, Moist Critical has gone on to stop participating in a lot of internet drama in general, mostly for his own well-being. Moist Critical, for the most part, is one of the most liked channels on the internet, and he's still running strong today with a lot of content for those that are still interested. Moist Critical's YouTube channel currently sits around 17.9 million subscribers, and his Twitch account has 5.9 million followers. Minion memes are the quintessential example of what boomer humor looks like on the internet. If you've ever scrolled on Facebook, particularly if you have a lot of older relatives who repost all sorts of stuff that they might have seen from their friends, you've probably been hit with an onslaught of these. Minion memes tend to be a picture of a minion accompanied with some snarky or relatable caption. Some great examples of these are, exercise, I thought you said extra fries. Ever been so drunk you got hit by a parked car? I genuinely don't know how anyone finds these laugh out loud funny, but I guess older people's brains have been running on some other type of hardware that just does not compute with these younger generations. That said, Gen Z humor is probably not all that much better considering a lot of these recent brain rot meme trends we've had, but boomer is a slang term for baby boomers on the internet. The term spawned as an insult for older people browsing the internet by younger generations as a way to clap back against old people posting online about how younger generations are just lazy and stupid. Boomers are best categorized as old people who are currently out of touch with the world around them, who then proceed to act like they know everything and are superior to anyone above the age of 55. Boomers ultimately represent the whole back in my day type of response that's often associated with old people. Not all old people are boomers in a sense. This term is more so just meant for more disrespectful older people online. Zoomer is somewhat of a clapback at Gen Z after the whole boomer meme came into existence. Zoomers are best categorized as younger people on the internet who are hyper plugged into the web and are just overall super annoying. Zoomers tend to be self-entitled and lazy, and just a good overall representation of all the negative stereotypes that older people have placed on younger generations, despite a majority of younger people just not being this way. This term gets slung around a lot online towards anyone that's younger, and they'll probably be around for a long period of time until Gen Alpha begins to take over the internet. Vsauce is an educational YouTube brand created by Michael Stevens, or as many of you best know him as,
Hey, Vsauce. Michael here.
Vsauce is a brand that is made up of 6 different channels that all talk about various different topics such as science, philosophy, psychology, and mathematics. I'm now just going to kind of quickly run through what each of the channels are under the Vsauce brand, and just what kind of sets all of these different channels apart. Vsauce 1 is run by Vsauce Michael, where the content primarily consists of Michael popping in and then giving the audience a question on a topic such as, why do we wear clothes, or what would happen if the sun disappeared, where he then proceeds to answer that said question. Vsauce is probably the most popular channel of the brand, with almost 25 million subscribers. The Vsauce 2 channel is run by Vsauce Kevin, which tends to focus a lot more on making videos about various different unusual topics such as interesting modern technology or weird phenomena across the planet. This is the Vsauce channel that I used to watch the most back in the day, with series such as Loot, Fuck, and then Mindblow being my absolute favorites across the Vsauce brand. Vsauce Free is run by Vsauce Jake, and it focuses primarily on talking about various different interesting topics in fictional worlds, such as ones in movies and video games. Then there is the Vsauce channel that is made up of content that has been created by Vsauce fans, though this channel has been inactive since 2015. Next up we have Ding, which is a channel that's run by Vsauce Michael, and it has a lot of content on there that talks about all sorts of various different interesting internet topics, but there's also a lot of content there that talks about just various different miscellaneous things as well. This channel is also inactive, sadly. And then finally we have The Rest is Science, which is a podcast hosted by Michael and Hannah Fry, where they discuss all sorts of topics pertaining to math and science. This is the most recent Vsauce venture, and is still updated quite regularly. Nowadays, most of the Vsauce channels are somewhat inactive, but they do still post stuff from time to time. This is mainly due to the fact that a lot of their newer videos are a lot higher in terms of their quality, and they're focused on a lot more complex questions and topics that require a lot more research than a lot of their older work. Vsauce has been incredibly popular ever since its inception, and I think this is mainly thanks to their videos' great blend of humor, while still providing an excellent educational experience that still manages to hit this really good balance between both being fun and just easy to pick up for anyone that's clicking on a video of theirs. Vsauce is also quite well known for their collaborations with all sorts of different content creators, ranging from infamous ones like Filthy Frank, or even highly respected individuals across the science field such as Bill Nye and Adam Savage. In recent memory, Vsauce has actually gone on to launch their own subscription box service called Curiosity Box that contains all sorts of fun science merch and activities, which honestly looks pretty cool looking at it right now. Though Vsauce's content is somewhat more infrequent nowadays, Vsauce still publishes pretty highly edited videos from time to time, along with some occasional YouTube shorts. The Vsauce brand is still one of the most beloved on the YouTube platform, and it firmly lands its place on this iceberg thanks to their fantastic and easily recognizable content. Cancel culture is in reference to people going out of their way to boycott or publicly shame someone over something online that somebody might have did that is offensive. In a lot of cases, cancellation tends to happen when a content creator says or does something that is racist, sexist, homophobic, or just downright criminal. When someone is canceled, people in all sorts of cases tend to cancel somebody by boycotting their content, ostracizing them from all sorts of public interaction, or they'll just sometimes even go out and ruin their real-world life by getting sponsors dropped for them, fired from a real-world job, or even in some cases, people just will go out and outright harass somebody in real life because of it. Cancel culture is a quite controversial topic, and for many reasons. Some of the most well-known cases of cancel culture over the years include stuff such as the Me Too movement, or the removal of Roseanne from the TV show Roseanne for comments that were made by the actress, or the removal of Apu from The Simpsons thanks to a short made by Adi Shankar called The Problem with Apu. Cancellation happens all the time online to a large chunk of content creators, occasionally for good reasons, but in some cases over the most small, minute mistakes that somebody might accidentally make, whether it be in the past or even in the present. Cancel culture as a whole is really a double-edged sword, as there's definitely some people out there that have very much deserved to be cancelled, like say P. Diddy or EDP445 or Harvey Weinstein for their heinous actions that they should honestly be in prison for, but for every good cancellation, there tends to be bad ones that I think really, if anything, have led to more bad than good. Ruining someone's entire life and career over stupid comments made 10 years ago on social media that probably do not represent who they are today is just kind of ludicrous in my opinion, and I think it's a good example of the dangers of cancel culture. It can be very easily wielded like a cudgel by anyone that's just kind of looking to shut down their adversaries for the most simplest mistakes, and very much can lead towards the radicalization of those that are knocked down by it. If you take a look at a large chunk of the prominent political extremists online today, most of their spiral into radicalizing content came with them losing everything over their massive mistakes and already extreme beliefs that have been further affirmed by striking them down. Say, take for instance people like Gypsy Crusader or Nick Fuentes, who are just some of the worst people online. I do agree that there should be consequences for people's actions, as bad actions should not go unpunished, but I'd rather see situations handled in a more constructive way to help teach those that what they did was wrong, and to just kind of help offer resources to help prevent things like an offhanded comment from happening again. What good does completely isolating someone and taking away everything over a mistake that just honestly could have been used as a learning tool? All this does for some people is build up hatred and vitriol for one another that could easily be avoided, and I think it will just kind of separate us all further and further from one another instead of allowing for productive change in society. At least that's just kind of what I think on the whole concept of cancel culture, and I'm sure you might feel different about it than me, and hey, that's all good. It's a controversial topic, and there really isn't a correct right or wrong answer to the existence of cancel culture. TikTok is one of the most popular social media platforms in recent memory. TikTok first began its life as a platform exclusive to China called Douyin. Douyin is kind of like the Chinese equivalent to Vine, where the platform is centered all around short-form video content that's usually under a minute in length. Douyin ended up being incredibly popular in China, which then led to the company behind the app, ByteDance, to then create a version of the app that would then be available to use outside of China. China, for the most part, is sectioned off from the rest of the internet thanks to the Great Firewall, and there's a lot of potential money that could be made if the parent company then expanded outwards. This app that they ended up creating ended up being TikTok, which launched globally in 2017. Around the same time frame, ByteDance purchased the rights for an app called Musical.ly, where they then proceeded to merge it and its user base with TikTok. Musical.ly, for those that are not aware, it was an app where the main draw of it was this lip-sync style content where users could lip-sync various songs or videos that did trend on the platform. Musical.ly's user base is quite well known for being cringe, so once the TikTok merger fully occurred, the app was filled with all of Musical.ly's users. I remember when TikTok first began to gain popularity and this just almost war broke out between TikTok users and other social media users, with the spread of things like TikTok cringe compilations, and then people that would invade the app start beef with some of the more cringe aspects of it. I might be wrong on a lot of this, as I'm just kind of going off what I remember at the time as a cringe internet user, but this little scuffle between TikTok users and the rest of the internet ended up blowing this app up in popularity. As a lot of the people that did come there to mess with others, they ended up actually coming around to enjoy a lot of the aspects of the app, while a bunch of other people discovered the app thanks to the virality of all of this, besides just the petty internet drama. While TikTok was already popular before the 2020 pandemic, it definitely blew up even more so around this time period, while everyone was locked at home with nothing else better to do. TikTok is still one of the most popular apps on the internet today for a lot of reasons. The whole short-form video content draw that's incredibly easy to get lost in for hours has led to it being just as popular as it is now. The popularity of the style of content has actually led to other platforms adopting a new, similar model, like with YouTube with YouTube Shorts, or Instagram with Instagram Reels, or Google with Google Giggles. Along with the short-form video content, TikTok has also helped blow up the whole For You page aspect for various different apps that will feed you endless amounts of content that relate to things that you like, and your just overall activity across the internet. As awesome as this can be from time to time, to just kind of like endlessly scroll content picked specifically for you, it can be incredibly addictive and potentially bad for your brain. There have been some studies in recent memory that have actually gone on to show actual harm that endlessly scrolling short-form video content like this can do for your brain, and just your overall attention span. This is just something to note if you do enjoy yourself some short-form content from time to time, as going overboard with it can potentially have some consequences. There have been some controversies brought up pertaining to how the app harvests user data, which has sparked various different privacy and security concerns in the United States, considering that a Chinese company is in charge of the app. This led to the app getting banned for a short period of time in certain regions across the world, such as the US in 2025. This ended up being somewhat reversed, but there is still quite a bit of controversy with TikTok in terms of user privacy overall. I myself don't use TikTok, nor do I really have any want to return back to the app after some really bad experiences I've had in the past. Particularly with this incident where I accidentally was bait and switched into watching some gore content on the app. I don't particularly want to go into more details on what the video was, as the actual video does appear much deeper on this iceberg, but this experience ended up killing a lot of my interest in ever using the app again. That said though, situations like this are usually quite rare, and my bad experiences should not dictate how you feel about an app like this. At the end of the day, TikTok is still beloved, and it's incredibly popular with younger generations in a way that has impacted the internet that we use today massively. Instagram is a social media platform with a very large emphasis on sharing pictures and videos. Initially, when the app first released in 2010, all of the content on the platform was restricted to a square aspect ratio of 640 by 640 pixels, but this was changed in 2015 to allow for any content in an aspect ratio below 1080p. Instagram was quite popular when it first released, and very quickly it was bought up by Meta in 2012. Though Instagram first began as a predominantly picture-sharing app, in recent years has shifted heavily over to short-form video content with Instagram Reels, which is what I primarily remember and use this app for. While we're at it, let's see what kind of, brain-nourishing content I can find just by opening the app.
I'm not taking my sneakers off. I am sneakers though too.
We're playing natural disaster survival on the island.
As you can see here with these videos, this is just some really compelling and educational stuff that just kind of hits the spot for me intellectually when it comes to scrolling endlessly on the internet. Instagram Reels has built up a reputation in recent years for being a lot less restricted when it comes to what content can be posted, which can be a bit of a blessing and a curse. Because on one hand, this has led to issues pertaining to some pretty crazy edgy content, such as a large influx of content that will spam stuff like racial slurs, or more infamously, there was the February 26th incident, which has also been dubbed as Gore Day, where users spam gore content on the platform due to some changes in AI moderation that allowed for content like this to bypass it. On the other hand, having less restrictions is actually quite refreshing, as so many platforms nowadays have gotten so censor happy with various different words like gun or kill, that overall make it feel borderline impossible to talk about various different subjects on other platforms without losing monetization or just outright being taken down. Having less restrictions in general compared to other platforms has made using this platform in recent memory just a lot more enjoyable, thanks to the wide variety of content that I have seen, whether it be stuff like memes, skits, true crime, or horror gaming related stuff that platforms like TikTok and YouTube Shorts just would not be okay with nowadays. Instagram is a pretty cool app, and one of the apps that I personally get a kick from scrolling through nowadays. r/AskReddit is one of the largest subreddits on Reddit, with well over 16 million visits per week. Here, users can ask questions for anyone using Reddit to really just come out and answer. It's really just as simple as that. So, for example, let's just kind of go onto the page right now and see what questions people are asking one another. Let's check out this post. What's a legendary Reddit post that you'll never forget? And some of the answers for this one are, forever the Seabat sex music situation, or poop knife, or the Jolly Ranter post. Yeah. Now that you mention the Jolly Ranter post, it's probably one of the most memorable ones for wrong reasons. Please don't go looking for the Jolly Rancher post. It's genuinely one of the nastiest internet stories I've ever heard to date, and I just really don't recommend looking at it. Oh, looks like we're gonna have to talk about it on Tier 10, so cheers to that, I guess. Now that I'm mentioning some of these infamous Reddit posts, it's actually good to mention that a large chunk of the most infamous Reddit stories have actually originated here in the comment sections of AskReddit. r/AskReddit is also where a large chunk of channels on YouTube that do stuff like reading wacky Reddit comments with an automated voice gain their material that they slop out on an assembly line. r/AskReddit is one of the most popular subreddits for a reason, and we'll be returning here a good bit in the future when we start getting to some of the more infamous Reddit stories on later tiers. r/pics is a subreddit where you can post all sorts of pictures that you've taken. It really should just be as simple as that, but this subreddit is a prime example of why I don't recommend engaging with pretty much any front page subreddit on the platform. Instead of just being a simple place where people can go and just post whatever cool pictures they've taken, it's been astroturfed to be almost primarily just political content, primarily on the USA side of things. Sure, you can just go and post whatever picture you want on there, but almost 100% of the time, it's just not going to be viewed by anyone, or most likely will just get bulldozed by other US politics-focused posts on the subreddit. I've seen rumors over the years that the place is filled with bots that help boost the political posts, but I can't exactly prove it. Almost all of the users who use the subreddit are higher on their own farts with the politics, and it's ultimately a miserable place to browse. I could understand if the subreddit was something like r/political pictures, but for the main subreddit on the platform centered around taking pictures, this really just should not be the case. It doesn't help that the moderators on there will just outright ban you if you ever question why posts essentially Orange Man bad, up dudes to the left. Heck, there have even been situations in recent memory where the mods will just outright auto ban you if you've ever participated in subreddits that they deem not appropriate, or stuff that they just outright don't like, such as r/when that they've labeled as far right when they just straight up aren't even far right in the first place. God forbid anyone wants to take a break from looking at the state of the world politically and just wants to take a look at cool pictures on stuff like alpaca and the Amazon River. It's like this for a majority of the major subreddits on the platform, and it's a good example as to why I and so many other people just hate Reddit and Redditors in general. Ridesharing is a service that is offered by some apps and websites that allows for people to order a car to pick them up and then take them to various different places. Ridesharing is kind of like hailing a taxi from a location, but instead of doing it physically, you end up doing it all digitally. It's actually pretty helpful, whether if you don't have a vehicle and you need to get to a place quickly, or if you, say, are on a vacation where you potentially left your vehicle at the airport before traveling elsewhere. Ride-sharing can be incredibly helpful. Some of the most used apps for ride-sharing are Uber and Lyft. With that, though, I don't really think I need to talk too much more about this topic, because it's a pretty simple one to understand. I'm pretty sure most people have at least used a ride-sharing service at one point or another. PayPal is an online payment processor that allows for people to transfer funds or to make various different financial transactions online. It was founded as Confinity in 1998, but it was officially opened up to the public as PayPal in 2002. Most online platforms have PayPal as an option to help perform a transaction for various different products online, whether it be something digital such as a subscription to an app, or for an order of a physical product that will then be shipped to you. PayPal is also pretty helpful for purchasing various things with various different currencies, like let's say you're out of your current country, like for me it'd be the United States, and in another with a different form of currency, like let's say Europe, where euros are more common. In 2020, PayPal introduced some new services that now allow users to use cryptocurrency to help complete their payments. PayPal, for the most part, is one of the most important applications online for just payment processing in general. Moderators are people on social media platforms who are put in charge of helping make sure content on a platform follows the rules. Moderators come in all shapes and forms, both good and bad. All social media platforms have them, but their visibility definitely varies. Some moderators are hired directly through a platform to help sift through the content in the background of things. These moderators, at least to me, are pretty chill, as they are mostly put in charge of handling the really, really bad content on social media platforms, and are not ones that just want to get off to the power of banning one another. Though a lot of these tasks nowadays are actually being handled less and less by people, and more so by AI, since it's just a lot cheaper and more efficient considering just the sheer amount of data circling the web. This has led to more mixed results in recent memory, but in general, it's makes sense. On the other side of things, we have moderators of various different communities and platforms that are usually volunteers or are appointed by others higher up in a community, such as with Reddit and Discord mods. These types of mods tend to help keep a community on track with their conversations and help enforce rules that might be imposed on a platform. That said, moderators like this tend to have a lot of issues with getting drunk on their internet janitor powers, where they will then ban and moderate anything that they just outright don't like and will potentially destroy an online community over the most stupid reasons. There's a reason a lot of public moderators get a bad rap, and it's mostly for just bad moderators' actions. That said, though, moderators are quite important for the internet to just be overall safe, and are very much something that is needed so that the web just doesn't fall into complete chaos. Fortnite is another one of the most popular multiplayer video games online. Fortnite first released in 2017 with its paid early access Save the World game mode, where players can play all sorts of various different missions, where they can build all sorts of different structures to fight waves upon waves of zombies going after you. Although this game mode was somewhat popular initially, Save the World was not what pushed Fortnite to the level of popularity that it is now. Fortnite Battle Royale released in 2017 as well to help cash in on PUBG's current popularity. But in the long run, it's gone on to actually far usurp PUBG. In Fortnite Battle Royale, 100 players are dropped off on a large map, where they all must fight each other to the death until one person remains. This game mode was released as a free-to-play mode, and it gained popularity fast over having over 10 million players playing it within 2 weeks of releasing. With this game mode's popularity, the focus on the Save the World game mode that was made prior to this ended up being shifted away to the more Battle Royale aspect of this game. Fortnite since 2017 has been its own massive cultural phenomenon with its various different crossovers with almost every single franchise under the sun. I don't think that there is any other game on the planet where you could play with a team of friends composed of skins like Homer Simpson, Peter Griffin, Master Chief, and Travis Scott, where you can then proceed to go into a match to squad wipe a team consisting of Godzilla, John Wick, Michael Myers, and Buzz Lightyear. This sentence alone is not something that I ever thought I would say, but look where we are now thanks to Fortnite. The various crossovers go way farther than just skins, however, as the map has changed all throughout the years to help accompany all sorts of franchises like The Simpsons in recent memory. Fortnite has even gone on to host actual full-blown live events as well, with these ranging from things like entire live concerts with musicians like Eminem and Travis Scott performing, and even civil rights events with speeches of prominent historical figures playing in the game's lobbies, such as with MLK, but this one did kind of backfire back in the day. Fortnite has also gone on to receive some extra game modes, such as Creative Mode, where players were ultimately put into a sandbox where they can create pretty much anything that they could want with a large variety of tools at their disposal.
Bro, I'm already going on high ground, man.
This eventually morphed into the Fortnite experience in recent years, which gives the players the tool to create just about anything they could want, but with Unreal Engine this time around. Another really cool game mode that was added in recent memory was Lego Fortnite, which essentially turned the entire game into Lego, with just about every single asset and skin receiving their own Lego counterpart. This is just insane to think about, as there's just so much effort put into such a simple and funny little game mode and event such as this. It's just crazy to think about. Though I myself have never really been a fan of Fortnite myself, I do have to admire just how often this game is updated with what seems to be pretty cool content, and just the fact that they've managed to pretty much obtain the ability to have pretty much every single fictional property present within their game in the way it is. With that, Fortnite has gone on to create all sorts of online creators' entire careers, such as with our next entry. Ninja is the most popular Fortnite streamer across the internet. Ninja first began his online career in 2009 as a professional esports streamer with Halo Free. Throughout the years prior to Fortnite, Ninja was part of many different esports teams such as Cloud9, Renegades, Team Liquid, and finally Luminosity Gaming. Around 2017, Ninja pivoted from primarily Halo-based content to games such as H1Z1 and PUBG before eventually moving over to Fortnite content.
Aw, fuck you.
The fuck you say to me, you little shit? How are you not in fucking school? You shut up when I'm talking to you! You shut your mouth!
Prior to Fortnite, Ninja already had around 500,000 followers on Twitch, but thanks to the newfound popularity of Fortnite, Ninja went from over 500,000 followers in late 2017 to over 2 million in 2018. Ninja very quickly became the most popular streamer on Twitch by being the first ever Twitch streamer to surpass 3 million followers on Twitch, and even managed to set the record for the largest concurrent audience at one point in a given time, with a Fortnite stream that had Travis Scott, Drake, and Juju Smith in it, that had well over 635,000 viewers at one given point. Around this period of time, Ninja also managed to land himself some pretty big appearances across a lot of different mediums, such as with TV shows like Family Feud, Red vs. Blue, and The Masked Singer, and some film roles as well, with movies like Free Guy and Hotel Transylvania Transformania. Ninja's also both written some books such as Get Good, My Ultimate Guide to Gaming, and even helped run a 30-day curriculum sponsored by MasterCard about how to become a successful streamer. At least to me, the appearance I most remember Ninja for was when he was invited to be a part of the New Year celebration in Times Square, where he tried to get the audience attending to do the floss with him, which didn't exactly go his way.
Get it, come on, baby. Show me what you got. Show me what, just move. If you got no one, just move. It's all I want to see, some movement. I'm not seeing enough movement.
Ninja's popularity with his Fortnite streams is actually somewhat connected to that of the rise of Fortnite's monumental popularity. In terms of Fortnite, Ninja became the first ever player to reach over 5,000 PC wins in 2018, and has even gone on to receive his own Fortnite skin in 2020. In August of 2019, Ninja was offered a streaming exclusivity deal with the platform Mixer, which lasted almost a year before Mixer was eventually shut down in July of 2020, before Ninja was then offered another exclusivity deal on Twitch, which lasted until September of 2022. On September 1st, Ninja changed his Twitch username to User Not Found and messaged out that he needed to just take a break before returning to streaming, which he eventually did on September 8th, to then multi-stream on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram all at the same time instead of picking up another exclusivity deal. Ninja is still one of the most popular streamers who does Fortnite content online even to this date. The only other real thing of note that I could think of when it comes to Ninja in most recent memory is the whole low taper fade arc back in 2024, where the musician Eric Doa sung the lyric, "Imagine if Ninja got a low taper fade," which blew up on TikTok, which sparked many different memes. Ninja eventually reacted to that and eventually got a low taper fade to help cash in on the trend. But outside of that, Ninja's still streaming Fortnite to this date on social media, and easily still one of the most popular streamers online to this date. Creepypastas are essentially horror stories that have been created and spread all throughout the internet. The word creepypasta is derived from the word copypasta, which are essentially easy to spread around bodies of text that can be easily copied and pasted anywhere on the internet. It's hard to really pinpoint when the term creepypasta was first determined, or what is the actual first ever creepypasta, but the story Ted the Caver, which began his life on a blog in 2001, is often considered by many to be the very first creepypasta. Around 2008, Creepypasta.com was created, which became the home to help archive most of the most popular creepypastas throughout the years, as they mainly would be posted across various different online forums that would sometimes become lost to time. It's also important to note that a lot of popular creepypastas throughout the years have come from 4chan, r/nosleep, the Creepypasta Wiki, and a whole lot of other places. Thanks to their easy-to-spread nature, creepypastas have been incredibly popular all throughout the internet for quite some time now, thus eventually leading to various different things like books and films that have definitely ranged quite a bit in quality. One of the things that has made creepypasta so popular all across the internet for quite some time now have just been the sheer amount of genres and types of stories that have been created to help scare people all throughout the internet. Some of the most popular genres that you can find are stuff such as paranormal pastas, extraterrestrial pastas, cursed image pastas, lost episode/media pastas, video game pastas, ritual pastas, and then troll pastas. Creepypastas definitely do range quite a bit in terms of quality, as for every crappy story you can find out there, such as with things like Jeff the Killer or Sonic.exe, there can also be some things like Baraska, Pen Pal, or Ben Drown that have scared many people and have even gone on to define entire genres of internet horror. My favorite creepypasta is probably Candle Cove, thanks to its already quite uncomfortable and spooky premise, and then the twist at the end that completely flips a lot of the story on its head is handled in just such a good way. Some of the most notable creepypastas throughout the years have been stuff such as Jeff the Killer, Slenderman, Ted the Caver, Pen Pals, The Russian Sleep Experiment, The Rake, 1999, Ben Drowned, Candle Cove, Squidward's Suicide/Red Mist, Abandoned by Disney, Baraska, and I could honestly just go on for hours, as there have been so many different notable ones that have been created throughout the years. Sadly, creepypastas can also be tied to some real-world crimes and incidents that have left a pretty less than favorable reputation for the genre. One instance in particular that I will be talking about actually pretty soon, I think really put a damper on a lot of the genre for a lot of people as a whole. Creepypastas are not as popular nowadays, at least from what I've seen, but their impact has been massive for almost all genres of internet horror, such as things like analog horror. Creepypastas, even in recent memory, have actually had a bit of a resurgence thanks to a lot of different YouTubers, such as with Creepcast, who have gone back to look at a lot of the creepypastas that have helped shape a lot of people's childhoods or internet presence back in the day, and just to kind of see if what they've seen back then was actually as good as they remember. To wrap this entry up, I just first wanted to just kind of shout out some really good videos on this topic, which will be linked in the description below. First is a history video by CZWorld that is actually a quite interesting look at the history of the genre. Next up is another Iceberg video by DylantheKnightOwl that covers and goes over Creepypasta Iceberg that is like incredibly long. Like on the top of my head, I think it's like 12 hours long. It's incredibly long, but it's honestly pretty good, and it makes for great background noise for whatever you feel like doing while listening to it. And then Myuu, who has created some of the most popular background music for just about any scary video reading online, including creepypastas. I've been playing their music in the background of this segment, so I definitely do recommend their stuff if you want some really good creepy music. Finally, there is Creepcast, which is a podcast hosted by Wendigoon and Meat Canyon, where they essentially read and talk about various different creepypastas and internet horror. I've been watching some of their stuff in recent years, and I think their stuff is pretty cool. I'll be talking about a lot of these stories that I've mentioned before as we progress throughout the Iceberg, such as with our next entry. Slenderman is probably the most recognizable creepypasta character all across the internet, thanks to all the various different mediums that this character has been placed in, and a particular real-world incident that actually went on to kill a lot of the interest in the Slenderman as a whole. Slenderman first appeared on the internet as a submission to a spooky Photoshop contest on the somewhat awful forums in 2009. There were two photos uploaded by Eric Knudsen that displayed a large white faceless figure in a suit, following around a group of children. The photos came with a block of text that named this creature the Slenderman and speaks of how children around the area kept going missing, most likely due to this creature. These pictures went viral and inspired a ton of content created all across the internet, such as creepypastas, games, YouTube series, fan art, etc. The main Slenderman creepypasta on creepypasta.com tells the audience more about it, as it's this almost paranormal entity with long black tendrils that lures children into the forest, but then eventually abducts them. Slenderman would go on to inspire many different viral video games, such as Slender the 8 Pages and Slender the Arrival, that were incredibly popular with early Let's Players on YouTube. Slender the 8 Pages has you venture into a forest and collect 8 spooky pages hidden all across it, while you avoid looking at the Slenderman, as it teleports all around and tries to get you to gaze at it.
And let's do a little flick, and flick. It's not there.
Did you see it? On the left side of the doorframe, barely visible on camera, a white translucent mystery shape slowly creeps into frame.
This game was my first ever introduction to Slenderman, as it was for a lot of people as well. Slender the Arrival is a sequel to the 8 Pages, and it's a more fleshed out story-based game centered around the particular character. Another major Slenderman piece of media is the Marble Hornets web series that you can find on YouTube. This series is a found footage ARG that follows somebody named Jay, who is looking into a set of tapes left by his friend Alex for a project called Marble Hornets. After viewing the tapes, Jay is haunted by the Slenderman, who is known as the Operator in the series, all while Jay investigates deeper into this mystery. This is just a very brief explanation of the series, as I want to talk about it a lot more later down on this iceberg, but this series is another major cornerstone that cemented the Slenderman as a modern internet-based horror icon. It ran from 2009 all the way up until 2014 with 3 whole seasons of content, with overall critical acclaim, even by people such as the famous movie critic Roger Ebert. Slenderman was referenced heavily all throughout the early 2010s in all sorts of media through things like Easter eggs, and it's even gone on to influence the creation of the Enderman mobs in Minecraft. Slenderman's popularity was through the roof in the early 2010s, but one particular incident in 2014 ended up sullying the character's reputation for years to come. It's impossible for me to talk about Slenderman without addressing a particular incident known as the Slenderman stabbing in 2014. In May of 2014, Anissa Weier and Morgan Geyser lured one of their friends, Peyton Leutner, into the woods, where they proceeded to stab her 19 times in the chest, all while they played a game of hide-and-seek. Anissa and Morgan prior to this were obsessed with the Slenderman mythos online, and believed Slenderman to be real and planning to kill them and their families if they did not sacrifice someone to him. It's important to note that at the time, Morgan Geyser was a undiagnosed schizophrenic, which most definitely played a part in terms of how a simple internet story managed to warp itself into this seemingly real-life entity that they assumed was going after both of them. After committing their actions, both teens ran away to find Slenderman's mansion to become his proxies, but were quickly apprehended by the police. Miraculously, Peyton managed to survive being stabbed 19 times and has made a full recovery as of today. Anissa and Morgan were both sentenced to prison for their actions, but since then they have been placed on supervised release. Although in late 2025, Morgan Geyser managed to escape a group home that she was placed in before being apprehended again, with her supervised release being then revoked, thus leading to her now having served her original 40-year sentence. This incident was a massive shock to everyone online, and it put a massive damper on people's enjoyment for just about anything Slenderman related. Having an incident like this occur all over a fictional character created online is an absolute nightmare, and it completely recontextualized how a lot of people saw Slenderman. No more is this entity a fun, internet scary story that can be easily spread around, but rather now it's something associated with an attempted murder. I feel as if it's important to note that this incident is not the fault of anyone in the Creepypasta community, as it's really impossible to predict a situation like this happening with any sort of fictional property. Since then, there has been a documentary called Beware the Slenderman that has been released that talks all about the incident, though soon after, in 2018, came a full-fledged horror movie called Slenderman that is all about the Creepypasta itself, and is considered by just about anyone who's actually seen it, myself included, to be just absolutely awful. For one, the film decided to center its story around a group of teen girls who discovered the Slenderman online through a cursed video, whereafter they soon started to go missing and hallucinate his presence, which is just probably not the best story angle to go with after the incident in 2014. The film's existence drew a lot of controversy from the family of Peyton, who pushed to have the film banned, and ultimately most likely led to the final film being censored heavily, with just about any bit of scary and graphic content that was featured in the film's first ever trailer just outright not even being present in the film to prevent any further issues. The film itself is just honestly terrible, and it feels more like a crappy Ring knockoff if anything, rather than the true Slenderman story that was created by many people online. The fact that the film decided to do with the storyline what they did, that is just so different from what the original source material was, that you can just easily find online, is just incredibly frustrating. And it's not like any of these changes they did, it's not like they do anything like correct or even better in any sort of form. They're just bad. The movie itself is not scary in the slightest, and the Slenderman itself is not even present in like 95% of the movie. The film itself sits at like a whopping 8% critical rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which is just honestly very much deserved. This is genuinely one of the worst horror movies out there. Besides the 2018 film, there really hasn't been all that much related to Slenderman since then. It's really a shame to see one of the most iconic characters created by the internet given the reputation it has thanks to the incident, but it's really impossible to talk about creepypastas and just internet horror in general without mentioning one of the internet's biggest horror icons that has been created throughout the years. And that will conclude another episode where we explore Layer 1 of the gigantic internet iceberg. If you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like and potentially subscribe to stay notified for when I complete the next video. Hopefully this video is better put together than the last one, as I put a good effort this time around just to better balance out my audio. But if there is anything that y'all think I can improve on, please let me know. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you all return for another look at Tier 1 of the gigantic internet iceberg.
Because if that guy had shockwaves after he railed me like that from behind... After he shot on my back... After he came from behind...